I promise this is not just a catchy title. If you do this, you will get better. And it doesn't matter what stage of the music production process you're in. You can use this to write better songs, level up your production game, and improve your mixes and masters. All along the way, you'll be working on ear training and fine-tuning your skills. So what am I talking about? Reference tracks. Now I know they're far less exciting than buying another reverb or compressor, but I promise you no matter what level you're at, the only way to make significant improvements is to better yourself and your ears, not through the checkout window at your favorite plugin company's website. If I told you there was a plugin that would make it easier to balance your mix, get your drum levels perfect, your low end tight, your vocals bright enough and perfectly balanced in the mix, we would all want that, right? But that's exactly what reference tracks do, except instead of using AI to analyze a mix, you've got to use your ears. And the best part about that is the more you reference, the better your ears will get, and the less you'll need to reference. I still reference all the time, and the better I get, the better my mixes sound before referencing, and the less I need to do to the mix after. Another benefit to using reference tracks is being able to trust your room and trust your gear. When I first got started, I built a small home studio in my parents' attic. The walls were slanted, and because of the size of the room, I shoved my desk as far into the wall as I could. This maximized the space in the room, but it sounded pretty terrible. Paired with budget speakers, you could very easily say my listening environment was not very accurate. To make things worse, I hadn't discovered reference tracks yet, so I'd do a mix, take it out to the car, and cry. Take it back inside, tweak some things, listen in the car, and cry some more. I should have been referencing. I was making music that only sounded good in that specific room. Instead, I could have pulled up some references and said, okay, this is how some of my favorite songs sound in this room. If I can get my songs to sound the same, or better yet, have the same balance, then I'd be comparing my mixes against something that I know sounds great in the car and in any other listening environment. So let's go over how to use references in different situations. How do you use reference tracks as a songwriter? This is something I do all of the time. I often get hired to co-write with an artist, and so we'll be writing a song together from scratch. Now, with no direction to follow, I might pull out an acoustic guitar, and that artist might hate acoustic music, so I always ask for at least 3 references from the artist so that I know what kind of sounds they like. Is there a general mood to all 3 songs? Are they all the same genre? And the goal is not to imitate. I always say if these 3 songs were a playlist, we're trying to make the 4th song on that playlist. So if you're a songwriter, don't be afraid to analyze and break down what you like about certain songs. Learn the chord progressions, break down the lyrics. Are they getting really deep and detailed, or leaving a lot open to interpretation? Anything you can make note of while you're listening critically can inspire you in your own writing. As a producer, reference tracks are extremely powerful. They can open your ears up to a whole new palette of sounds that you never would have thought to use, especially if you're working with an artist whose genre might not be what you listen to every day. Now, you get to deep dive into a new genre, pull up some sounds, and be inspired in a completely new way. Just like when songwriting, I like to start by listening to 3 songs that are in the style of what we're trying to create, and I'll make a simple list of everything I hear. Are they using real drums or a drum machine? What's the bass instrument? What kind of effects are on the vocal? That's a cool little arpeggio. Anything I hear that catches my attention, I'm writing it down. Then, after listening to each song, I ask the artist why they shared that song. What are they connecting with most about that song specifically? I do a lot of mixing while I'm producing, and so I'm constantly referencing to make sure I'm on track. When I'm mixing, I like to keep a copy of the reference track right in my session. I'll be referencing more sonically now than I am creatively, and I'm listening to things like the vocal EQ, compression, effects used, drum balance, and so having the song in my session allows me to chop it up and make markers in the session to quickly jump to certain sections. So like if there's a spot where I can really clearly hear the vocal sound, I'll chop it up and place a marker to jump right to it. So we're going to get into this a little bit now, so why don't we jump into Pro Tools and I'll show you how I set up my reference tracks. First, you need to obtain your reference tracks. I usually just buy them on Amazon because you can grab the single for like $1 or something. They'll only let you download an MP3, which works for me, but if you need WAV files, you can check out Qobuz.com. And this is not an ad, just the best I found for purchasing WAV files. And they have a huge library, so pretty much anything commercially released you'll be able to find. Then you'll want to import the song into your DAW and jump to around 5 minutes or so. Typically the songs I work on are around 3 to 4 minutes, and so I find that putting the reference tracks at about 5 minutes keeps them out of the way and gives me a memorable number to jump to. Then I'll place a marker at the start here and label it References. I like to go down and cut up the song into sections based on what I'm listening for, and I'll label those song name and description, so something like Hold On, Vocal EQ. That way if you have multiple reference tracks and different songs, you can easily jump to the song and the section you're looking for. Our ears are extremely adaptive, so the longer we listen to something, the more we get used to things sounding that way. So it's important that you reference often to keep your ears fresh. You want to get to the point where when you switch over to your reference, it's not a huge jump for your ears. You might find that when you first start referencing, you'll be listening to your mix, think it sounds amazing, and then when you switch to the reference, you find that the music section is much cleaner, the vocals are brighter, the drums are bigger, the bass is bassier, and that's okay. It can be scary to compare our music and mixes to something that's been written by a team and then produced, mixed, and mastered by the best and most experienced people in the industry. It can also be extremely discouraging and frustrating when you flip over to the reference and find that your mix doesn't live up to it. But if you don't reference, it's like trying to make a cake without ever knowing what a cake was. We follow recipes and we know what the finished product is supposed to be like, and then there's still room for you to put your creative spin and artistic angle on it. The point is never to recreate someone else's song or mix, but if we want our music to be able to stand next to some of the best sounding music that's being commercially released, reference tracks are the thing that's going to level the playing field and let people decide if they like your music for your music and not because it either does or doesn't sound like what they're used to. If you found this video helpful, I do have some others you might like, and I'm constantly making new ones, so if that's something you're interested in, consider hitting that subscribe button and maybe let YouTube know if you like this video. As always, if there's a topic you want to see covered in a future video, feel free to leave me a comment below and I'll see you in the next one.